Okay, this is Business 342, the practice final, set 3, problem number 1. Ajax common stock is expected to return 17% in a boom economy, 11% in a normal economy, and 2% in a recession. The probability is 25% of a boom is 25%, of a normal economy is 70%, and a recession is 5%. What is the expected return of this stock? Okay, in this case, we're talking about just one stock. Okay, so you make yourself a little chart, show the 3 different states, in this case, state of the economy, boom, normal, recession, the probability for each one, the return that you would that they're saying would be in that economy, and then the expected return. Remember, the expected return is the probability times the return. You can go to page 64 and 70 in your book. 64 is the one that is most applicable, and we'll look at that really quick. And it actually shows it. This is page 64. Shows a chart, something like this. And notice up here the formula. It calls for one of the sum formulas where they use that abbreviation for sum. But basically, that formula is the expected return, and this is for an individual stock. The expected return equals the sum of the return for that stock times the probability for that stock, the sum of them. So how many different ones there are, returns times the probability, plus the returns times the probability, that equals the expected return for that individual stock when it's not weighted. In this case, there's no, well, it's only one stock that wouldn't be weighted anyway. Okay, so basically that formula looks like this. The expected, instead of putting it in that sum format, the expected return equals the return of stock, or state 1 in this case, times the probability. So this times that equals the expected return of state 1 plus the return times the probability of state 2. Basically, this is just a weighted average. That's all it is in this case. Remember, we're talking about an individual stock, how it performs, how it performs in different economies, and then the probability of each one of those. So just the probability times the return, probability times the return, probability times the return. You add those together, you get 12.05%. So the answer for this is A, 12.05%. A couple other things that he didn't ask for, but you should remember how to do, is we did the expected return. Here it is again, 17% times 0.25 plus 11% times 0.7 plus 2% times 0.05, and you add them together. You know, here we just did it across here. Here's the actual formula. Okay, the variance for that, remember, is x minus mu squared times the probability. So x in this case is 17 minus mu, which we found is 12.05%, square that and times the probability for that happening. And the same thing, x minus mu squared times the probability, x minus mu squared times the probability to get the variance. And remember, the standard deviation is just the square root of the variance. So if they ask you for the variance of the standard deviation, remember it's x minus mu times the probability. Okay, and you figured out mu, which is the weighted average. In this case, the expected return is the weighted average. And then x is the return for each one of these. So x minus mu squared times the probability plus, and that you add all those together and that gives the variance. Remember, the variance is not a weighted average because you're going x minus mu squared. Okay, and then to get the standard deviation, you just take the square root of that. Okay, so that's practice final set 3, problem number 1 for Business 342.